Hey, my friends. Happy Tuesday. It is Jen Pittabach with By the Shore Stamping. If you're new to my channel, welcome to the show. It is a weekly video for me. We do this every week on Tuesday. I release a new video. And today I wanted to share some ways to use your patterned paper. So there's lots of ways to use this up in a variety of ways, and we're going to go through 4 of them today. So first off, I'm going to stamp a little bit for you, and then I'll show you some samples of other ways to use your pattern paper. I know we all probably have a ton of it, so there's always a lot of need for us to discover new ways to use it, right? So that's what we're going to do today. So I think the first thing, the one I'm going to show you is the thing that we probably think of least often, or at least I did. I never really thought to do this. So we're going to go ahead and show you a fun tip for using patterned paper. So I'm going to use some of my scraps. I'm using the Sunshine and Rainbows Designer Series paper. This is 6x6 paper. And it's a freebie item. So if you spend $50 right now with Stampin' Up! In my online store, you can pick anything out of this awesome catalog for free. Some of the items are $100 reward items, but most of them are $50, and that includes this really fun sunny paper. So if you spend $50 before tax and shipping, you can pick this paper stack for $0, and it's super cute. So I think you're gonna want it. So that's what I'm gonna use, and I'm pairing it with the Every Chapter stamp. This is in the new mini catalog that came out in the beginning of January, and it's just super cute. I bought it because I have some friends that are Usborne Books and More consultants, and so I wanted to make her a special card that she could use for her customers and friends, so that we could kind of give her a little head start on thank you cards and whatnot. So that's what I made that for, or bought that for. And then I just love it because I'm a big book lover anyway, so I wanted to use it again. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a way that we can use up these scraps. So I'm going to grab 4 different patterns that kind of coordinate. Let's do this blue, the green, the yellow, and what else do we got? Maybe the pink. I think that will work. We'll do those colors, okay? So I'm just grabbing whatever scraps I have, all right? And then we're going to do a little bit of stamping on this. So as you can see, I've already done a little bit of this, and I'll show you the finished version once we're done. But I wanted to show you how to make this work. So first off, we're gonna grab our stamp. And it doesn't have to be multicolored if you didn't want to. You could just stamp this right on one piece of paper, one pattern paper, and do that too. Like if it doesn't have all the different elements, you don't need to use 4 different colors of paper. I'm going to, because I want the books, the stack of books, to be different colors. Like, just like it would be if it was a stack of books on your desk, right? So I stamped the friendship book on the pink. So now I'm going to move up to I'm going to do the yellow, I think. We'll do yellow. No, I'm going to do the blue. We'll use the blue one next. Okay, so now you do want to kind of think about your order a little bit. I'm going to grab this, and I'm going to make sure the Of Our book is on that pattern paper. So I'm going to stamp that. Okay. Next up, we need to stamp the Every Chapter book. And that one, I think I'm going to pair on the yellow. Okay, so I'm going to grab that, and we'll stamp this here. Okay, and then the last one is the I Enjoy. So this is a pretty big piece of paper for that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use just a piece of scrap paper here. And I'm just going to cover the top of this so I don't get ink on it. And I'm just going to stamp the I Enjoy part. And then I won't waste all that excess. So I can just get mostly just that. Okay. So now we're going to take our little sheets, and we're going to grab our paper snips, and we're going to cut around these books. So we're going to just go ahead and fussy cut right around the books. I did use mostly subtle patterns for stamping. When you stamp on your patterned paper, you want to kind of keep it to subtle patterns, otherwise it might get too busy. Although we probably could have used a little bit of a bolder pattern in some of these just because it's such a small area. Like if we were doing the whole stack of books on one pattern paper, you definitely want it to be subtle. But this one, we could have probably maybe done some of the rainbows or something like that, and the books could have been rainbow themed. But I prefer to have some like more subtle colors so that it doesn't make it hard to read, especially with this one because it's got a sentiment included on it too. So you want to make sure it's easy to read that sentiment. And if you've got too much going on in the pattern paper, it will be hard to read. So that's my little tip for you on that. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm just fussy cutting around these like that. I do like to kind of go in here and sort of fix this up a little bit too. So we'll do that. Okay. And then we've got the of our, and I'm going to cut that out. You do want to kind of stay just outside the black lines. We may have to trim them up a little bit depending on how we stack them. I generally stack them so that I use dimensionals on every other book. And that allows me to not really have to trim them down a little bit. If we're going like butting them up right up against each other, you may have to go just inside the book line on some of them just so that they match up nicely. And I'll show you what I mean in a second. Okay, so there's that one. And the last one is this friendship. So I'll fussy cut that really fast. You can see this is like super easy. So if you're doing this, you probably want to pick a stamp set that isn't super like detailed, because then it would make it really hard to fussy cut, right? So on this one, as I mentioned, I'm kind of cutting just inside the book rather than just outside that outside line, because I'm going to layer them together and I want those to sit nicely. So then I'm just going to cut this. I want to make sure I get that little ribbon. But as you can see, all of these cuts are just straight lines. So they're not hard at all. And it's just going to make this image really pop off the page, which I love. Okay, so now we have our little books. And what you'll want to do is you'll want to get, like, stamp the image again on another piece of paper, so like I did here. Okay, and now we're going to go ahead and we're going to layer these on. So see how this one kind of goes right up against that line, and then when I put this one on top, because I cut that one right up against the line, in order to line it up, they're kind of overlapping a little bit, which is fine. You can just overlap that too. Sometimes it's good to just cut inside though. I'm going to probably do every other as popped, so it's going to be fine, but you can see how like it pushes them around when I add these here. There you go. So you can see we're going to build our little stack of books. So fun, right? And then I also stamped it on a scrap piece of paper, the gray, and I'm going to fussy cut the little gray teacups too. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the dark smoky slate blends marker, and I need my glasses. Let me pull those down. And I'm going to add a little bit of a darkness to this just to give, when I cut this out, which I'm going to do, I'm going to fussy cut this as well. When I cut it out, it's just going to give a little more interest to the finished card, because otherwise it's going to be flat, like not literally flat, because I'm going to pop it up, but it's going to feel flat when we look at it, because it doesn't have as much dimension as the pattern paper and whatnot. So I'm just going to add a little bit of color here with the dark, and I'll add a little bit of color here just to give a little contrast. Makes it like have more depth, I guess is what I'm looking to say, right? So now I would take my scissors and I'm gonna cut this. I'm not gonna go ahead and cut this whole thing, I already did it, but I do wanna show you a little trick for cutting inside things. Like this one, because it's like right up against the edge, I just went in here and like cut around it with my scissors, because we're gonna like tape it down and it will be fine. But with this one, I didn't want to slit, you know, into the handle. So what I do to get it easier to cut in there is I grab my pokey tool. I'm using my take your pick tool, And I'm going to just go ahead and put a hole right in that center, and now I can go ahead and use my snips and kind of cut that out a little bit easier because I have that little hole to work from. Okay, so that's kind of my little tip for that. So you would go ahead and fussy cut that out, and you would go ahead and layer your pattern papers on here. Let me just show you how I did that. So there you go. This is my finished one with some other patterns, and I popped up the little cup, and I popped up the 2 of the 4 books, and I rounded the corners on that. So now I just picked another pattern paper that looks good with it. So I used the, you could probably use this too if you wanted something a little more bold. We could do that. Actually, it's kind of cute. I don't know. I kind of like the muted, but maybe I do kind of like this. So we'll do it this way. Okay, and then I have a piece of the Pool Party sheer ribbon. So just to kind of add a little more interest to this, I'm going to go ahead and tie a little bow on the side over here. So I want it on the edge. So I'm going to go ahead and tie that over here. If I have enough for a bow, I think I do. Come on, come out. There we go. Okay. We'll floof it up a little bit. So I just like to pull the ends, make it a little bit smaller, and then I'll just re-pull it to get it tight. Do it a couple times just to make sure it stays tight, but gets it to be the size I want it to be. So there we go. All right, and then I'm gonna grab some scissors, where did I put my scissors? Here they are. I'm gonna cut off this little curly end. That was the end of the ribbon. If I can get it to sit right. Goes this way. So I'll cut that off. And then I'm going to cut this side off too, making them pretty short. I don't want a lot hanging off like that. Okay, we'll make sure this is lined up properly. This is a top fold card, so I used thick basic white and made it a top folding card. I'm going to attach that on there so you see we're getting there. All right, and then I'll go ahead and add this to the card front. Oop. There we go. Attach that here. Okay, and then I'm going to pop up this layer on top of the card. If I can find my dimensionals, I just had them. How is it that things go missing, right? You just had it, and now it's MIA. It's gonna be around, oh, here they are, I found them. Okay, so I'm gonna grab my dimensionals. I like to put one in each corner, and then one in the center to prevent sagging. And we'll take these off. And then we can attach that here. Like that. Okay, and then I probably will add a little bit of jewels because I love to add a little bit of bling. I'm using the classic matte dots, and I think I will keep them. Let's use the dark gray here, or the basic gray. I'm gonna just add a couple of these here. One here, one here. We'll use the bigger one down here. There. And actually, if I had it, I would totally add some Wink of Stella, but I'm out of Wink of Stella right now. But I would probably add some Wink of Stella to the eyeglasses, maybe the little leaves, and the handle, maybe the 2 popped up books too, just to add a little bit of glitz and glamour, right? So let's go ahead and show you some other ways to use the pattern paper. Before I do that, I do want to just ask a favor of all of you. If you guys like this video, please go ahead and hit the like button. And if you really want to make my day, go ahead and click subscribe. That really helps me more than you can ever know, and I really appreciate it. So 4 ways to use our pattern paper. You saw we used this one. by stamping on it and then fussy cutting it. Okay, this second card I'm going to show you is very similar. I'm using all of the rainbow paper, so you can see some of the other patterns. This is the freebie paper you can get with a $50 purchase. This one, I did some fussy cutting, so I fussy cut the rainbow and the clouds right out of the paper. So the only thing that's stamped here is the sentiment. So it's a great way to use up your pattern paper. You can use all those little scraps that we saw at the beginning and use them on your cards just by using the pattern paper. So this one, I took my pattern paper and I cut it in strips and made that as my background. So instead of using one full sheet, I took those scraps and I turned them into a background for my card. And then I just punched, so we have a new cloud punch and I don't have it, but I improvised and used the 1-inch circle punch to make some little clouds on the bottom of this rainbow. This one, I used the pattern paper as like small little pieces. So I love to build clusters of pattern paper to use as your like the base for your focal point. So you can see I used this little 3x3 square in the background, then I had a little circle of the pattern paper and a stripe of pattern paper. And actually this little yellow one is a stripe as well. That's part of the pattern paper. It was just part of the block of striped colors and I cut just the yellow out of that. So you can really, you know, capitalize on those little tiny pieces by building a little cluster and then sticking your sentiment or your focal image on top. So you could put a little rainbow there or whatever you wanted to do. So that's what I did there. And then this one, I used the pattern paper to die cut. So I cut my little rainbow dies right out of it. And that was my rainbow for the die that I used from the dies, but it was just all using scraps of that pattern paper. And I love this one. I think it's one of my favorite cards that I've done. And since I have you here, these two cards, those were part of my catalog countdown, but these two are two of the cards that were featured in my Shore Club membership. So if you are not familiar with Shore Club, be sure to check out the link below. I actually do a monthly membership program where you get an exclusive class, you get a monthly tutorial, you get a stamp and a scrap recipe that you can use to create your own creations. We get you get my virtual card class tutorial for free. You get my stamp of the month class tutorial for free. You get a crafter Zoom with me, and you also get a stamp along with me every month. So there's lots of perks. And if you're an annual member, there's even more perks, including a $25 voucher to use towards product at any point during your year, and discounts on my Creative Escape weekend, which also happens to be open right now. So lots of reason to join Shore Club. And these were two of the cards that were part of the exclusive class featured in January. All right, you guys, there's my 4 ways to use your pattern paper. You can stamp on it, you can make clusters with it, you can fussy cut it, you can make striped backgrounds, or you can die cut it. So there's so many ways to use up those little bits and pieces of your pattern paper, and I hope I inspired you to try a couple. Thanks so much for watching. Again, if you liked this video, go ahead and click like, and if you want to see more, be sure to subscribe, and I will see you next time for some more crafting. Thanks so much for joining me. Have a great day.